Denny Hamlin finished second at Watkins Glen yesterday. His, second best ever finish there at that track because he has that win back in 2016. However, the talk around Denny Hamlin recently has not been about his finishes. He's had a great season. He's second in the regular season points, I believe. But it's been more about his contract situation. He has been expected to re-sign with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I've been extremely confident that that's going to happen. I was 100% certain up until this weekend, and this is really something that doesn't have to do with his driving because there was a bit of spicy news. How spicy, may you ask? Well, I pulled out the buffalo sauce because that's how spicy it's getting up in here. I'm not going to eat or drink this on camera. I'd be out for like 2 weeks. I'm weak when it comes to spicy stuff, but I needed to pull out hot sauce to show you how spicy this news is. Now, Denny Hamlin, as I said, I was 100% confident that he was going back to Joe Gibbs Racing. There was no way that Joe Gibbs Racing was going to repeat what happened with Kyle Busch last year, lose a Hall of Famer in his prime. There was no way they were going to let it happen again, right? Right? Well, once again, this is not... I'm still confident that he's returning to Joe Gibbs Racing, but it seems like there are some complications happening. And it has to do with the team that Denny Hamlin actually owns, 2311 Racing. Remember last year, Kyle Busch, one of the biggest things that kind of, I would say, hindered him from leaving Joe Gibbs Racing was that he owned a truck team and they would have to switch manufacturers if he were to leave outside of Toyota. So with what ended up being RCR, and I think that's what ended up being the biggest step. But it obviously worked out for him. He's got 3 wins at RCR. He's still a competitive truck series team. So overall, it's worked out for him. But for Denny Hamlin, he owns a competitive Cup Series team. Now, no, they're not a championship-winning organization yet, but they do have one car in the playoffs currently. Bubba Wallace has won a couple of races for him. Kurt Busch has won a race for him. Tyler Reddick's won a race for him. They're trying to get both cars in the playoffs for the first time this year. But could we see a manufacturer change? It may be possible. Listen to this. This is from catchfence.com. It says, at Michigan, the hot tip from multiple sources mentioned meetings between 2311 representatives and Ford. With the lack of performance from Stewart-Haas Racing and the company's contract expiring at the end of 2024, could 2311 Racing be a potential candidate? Wow. Who saw that coming? 2311 Racing leaving Toyota, first of all. It's so early in their young life. And second of all, Ford. Where did that come from? Now, these are just meetings, but at the same time, the fact that the meetings are happening, that should ring some alarm bells or something. Like, who would have thought that 2311 would even be talking to Ford? I genuinely didn't see this coming. I thought if 2311 were to leave Toyota, it would be for a new manufacturer. Denny Hamlin has a long-lasting relationship with Toyota. That team helped him get off the ground to make this Cup Series team. They've had success together. Maybe it's not all smooth sailing, I guess. But, there could be a variety of factors playing into this. Now, once again, this is not confirmed that this is happening, but the fact that it's being talked about, I do want to list out some of the potential scenarios. What if 2311's mad that Legacy Motor Club got added? Now, once again, Toyota has talked about for years expanding their horizons in the Cup Series. They've only had Joe Gibbs Racing in a secondary team, usually that's a 1 or 2 car team, so they've had 6 cars usually in the Cup Series, and they've wanted to expand how many Cup Series teams they've had. So Denny Hamlin, 2311 Racing, really shouldn't be that surprised that they added a team, just because it's something that they've wanted to do. It's something that they've been wanting to expand on, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. But you do have to think about that possibility, I think. And then maybe the Stewart-Haas Racing thing really does play a big factor into Ford's decision into looking for a new team. Maybe they're going to give 2311 an offer so good 2311 can't turn it down, whether it's guarantee in supplies, guarantee in research and development and tech, money, whatever it may be. Maybe they're giving them such a sweet deal. It's like 2311 just cannot pass it up. Like, it's like if you're walking in the streets and someone comes up to you and offers you $10 million to quit your job on the spot, that's a pretty good offer. I don't think you're going to turn that down. But if it was like $100,000 to quit your job right now, you might not do that. So maybe it's just an offer so freaking good. 2311 may not be able to turn it down. But yeah, and then as for the Stewart-Haas thing, Tony Stewart has said that they're going to honor their contract finish until 2024, but I don't know. I think they'll finish through 2024, but Tony Stewart just, he hasn't seemed happy with NASCAR in a while. The relationship with Ford has kind of not been, I don't know, not necessarily talks, but the on-track results have not been great. It's not really a secret. Stewart-Haas Racing, you look at their past 5 years alone, it has been an absolute crash. 2018, all 4 of their cars won. Kevin Harvick had 8 wins or something. Clint Boyer had 2 wins. Eric Almirola had a win. Kurt Busch had a win. All 4 cars were in the playoffs. All 4 cars, I think, made the round of 8. Like, they were insane in 2018. 2019, they took a step back. Kevin Harvick still won a few races. He still made the final 4. Clint Boyer went winless. Eric Almirola went winless. Daniel Suarez was in his first year in the 41, so he didn't win. And then 2020, Kevin Harvick won 9 races. He had the most wins in the series, missed the final 4 because, this format. And then Cole Custer kind of fluked into a win. Other than that, they were winless. And then 2021, they had 1 win as an organization. 1 win. Eric Almirola at New Hampshire. Not Kevin Harvick, not their Hall of Fame champion. Eric Almirola had their 1 win, and it was at New Hampshire. And then 2022 rolls around. They only had 3 wins. 2 from Harvick, 1 from Briscoe. So, nice to have wins from multiple cars. And then this year, they're winless. RFK has 2 wins. Front Row Motorsports has a win. Stewart-Haas Racing, who used to be arguably the top Ford team, maybe Team Penske you could argue is up above them, but statistically, SHR was better than them for a bit. But SHR, who was a top 2 Ford team, may not be even top 3 right now. Seriously. RFK, significantly better than them. Front Row, at least on the McDowell front, Todd Gilliland, honestly, is probably better than at least 2 of those cars right now in the points, maybe. That's 2 teams better than them. Penske has wins this year, is better than them. That's 3 teams that have wins versus their 0 wins. SHR has 1 car in the playoffs right now. Could potentially have 2 if someone wins at Daytona. But Team Penske has 2 cars in the playoffs. Front Row has a car in the playoffs. It's Stewart-Haas is in shambles right now. They have been crap since 2021, I would say. You could argue before that, 2020 or 2019, you could argue that Harvick was carrying them so hard. But it's just been a downward spiral for Stewart-Haas Racing. They need a change. They need something different. Leaving Ford could be that change. Would they go back to Chevy? Would they go to Toyota? Would they potentially get a new manufacturer? I don't think there's going to be a new manufacturer anytime soon, but Stewart-Haas Racing desperately needs a change. And if they do make that change, would 2311 be the candidate to replace Stewart-Haas Racing? And then the question is, what does Denny Hamlin do? Denny Hamlin's still in the prime of his career. He's still a championship contender. He's winning multiple races a year. He's not going to retire just because they're switching to Ford. Does he join his own team in a 3rd car? Well, then they have to acquire a 3rd charter. Charters are north of $20 million these days. He's not going to run an open car, I can tell you that much. What is Denny Hamlin going to do? And if, let's say, Stewart-Haas honors this Ford contract through 2024, is Denny Hamlin going to go into 2024 knowing that he's leaving? Are they going to announce we're doing a 1-year deal with Denny at JGR, then he's leaving? Are they going to announce that this year? That's going to be awkward next year. Once again, I'm still confident that they get something done. It was 100%. Right now, I'd say it's down to 75%, so I'm still pretty confident that Denny Hamlin's going to return to Joe Gibbs Racing, but it seems like there have been some hiccups in the road, especially with 2311 talking outside. I think, honestly, if you want my opinion, if Joe Gibbs Racing loses Denny Hamlin, that would be a bigger failure than losing Kyle Busch last year. Let me explain. Last year, losing Kyle Busch was huge. It was a failure. And, Kyle Busch, I think, wanted an amount of money that Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing couldn't fulfill, and that was a part of it. It sucks. They had to let him go, essentially. They lost a lot with that. Kyle Busch has been their most successful driver in Toyota's history in the NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity and probably Truck as well. They lost a Truck Series team, a developmental team that had a lot of top drivers, and it was one of their starting points for young prospects to go. That's a huge loss to lose not only your most successful driver, but one of your kind of starting points for young top prospects in NASCAR. To lose those both, that's a punch in the face, obviously Kyle Busch wasn't turning around and giving the bird to Toyota, but it just didn't work out, and ultimately they lost them both. But to lose that, and then the very next year to lose another Hall of Fame driver, another one of your most successful drivers, and on top of that, to lose a Cup Series team, that's an utter, blatantly honest, that's the biggest failure in Toyota's history in NASCAR. To lose both those things back-to-back years. And the reason I think the Hamlin thing would be a bigger failure, Hamlin has 50 career wins. So him and Kyle Busch are kind of close in wins. Kyle Busch, I think, has 63, but I think about 7 or 8 of those have been with Chevy. So pretty close in wins. Kyle Busch has 2 more championships, but Denny Hamlin has 3 more Daytona 500s. So on the driver aspect, you're losing a lot on both fronts. But then comparing the extensions of these drivers, as I said with Kyle Busch, the Truck Series team, top Truck Series team where you put the top prospects. But to lose what Denny Hamlin owns, that's bigger. That's a Cup Series team. Not only is it a Cup Series team, it's a competitive Cup Series team that has 4 wins in their 2.5-year history. They have wins with Bubba Wallace, as I said. They have wins with Kurt Busch, Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick, in my opinion, is a future Cup Series champion. Bubba Wallace is going to win you a good amount of races, I think. To lose those drivers, to lose that team, it's terrible. 2311 and Trackhouse, in my opinion, are the future of NASCAR. I'm not saying that Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing aren't, or that Team Penske isn't, that they're going to, go away or anything, but 2311 Racing, Trackhouse Racing have done something different compared to your traditional NASCAR teams. They're new, they're modern in a sense, I guess if you want to call that. The culture is different. Everything about those two teams are completely different than what we normally see. And it's a great thing. It really is. And I think that's something that Toyota should be more invested in if they were to potentially lose them. They have to do something to keep that team, to keep Denny Hamlin, because if they lose that, that's really bad. To lose your new team that has a ton of eyeballs on it, that has Michael freaking Jordan as one of the owners, that would be a complete failure, and someone's head should get chopped off for that one, figuratively, of course. But that would be a complete failure to lose that team. Once again, this is not confirmed. This is not, for sure happening. I'm talking about if it were to happen, that is my opinion on it. If Toyota were to fumble Denny Hamlin in 2311 Racing, it would be a huge failure, and changes would have to be made at Toyota, I think. I mean, that to lose Kyle Busch and KBM and Denny Hamlin in 2311 in back-to-back seasons, someone's got to go. Someone did not do their job right. I know there's a lot of money involved, and I know that there's some things that are out of your control, like the Kyle Busch thing. It was a money thing. That's the fact of the matter, and Joe Gibbs Racing couldn't pay it. They couldn't get the sponsorship for it. Kyle Busch didn't want to get paid less than what they were giving him. And sure, but this one, you can't lose it. The other thing, the quotes from him, Denny Hamlin, was basically saying that it's a different situation. Yes, it is a different situation. Kyle Busch, the money he was asking for, what he wanted was based off of his what he thought he was worth. They didn't have the sponsorship there. M&M's and Mars leaving. That really put a dent in Kyle Busch's paycheck in terms of them leaving. And Denny Hamlin, they've got sponsorship. FedEx is expected to renew, even though I don't think I've seen them on track since Nashville, but they do have new sponsors. They have Mavis Tires and Brakes. Sports Clips goes on the car every once in a while. Interstate Batteries goes on the car every once in a while. We see Coca-Cola on the car. So sponsorship, I think Denny Hamlin is fine. So really, the Joe Gibbs-Denny thing, that as a whole seems pretty fine. All the problems, the complications, and the reason this has been delayed so much, I think it's because 2311 Racing. So if it wasn't for 2311 Racing, like if this was 5 years ago, I think Denny Hamlin signs an extension in May. I think we wouldn't be talking about this in August. I think Denny Hamlin, he's re-signed. It's over. Like, we would not even be thinking about this, but 2311 complicates it. Once again, I really don't think Denny Hamlin's going to leave Joe Gibbs Racing. As for Ford and 2311, I mean, they're talking. They're talking. It's possible, but we'll see. We'll see. We got another championship case coming today. We're going to talk about Ryan Blaney, how he can win the championship. I'll see you guys for that video. Any other news that comes up this week, I put my schedule for this week's videos in the community post. Go check those out. Going to do some more quizzes this week. You guys seem to enjoy those. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys later.